right, well, Facebook Friday, Lynda. Here we are.
Thank
Another
goodness
Friday.
for Fridays.
TGIF.
Yes.
TGIF. Of course, I'm around this weekend, so it's not really.
Not
It's
really
kind of like
off
a
weekend.
Wednesday, really. Yeah, so it's all right. You're off. You're off, though.
I'm off.
You're off. You're off. Well, you know.
Don't know to wear, but
I
I'm
know
off.
you're off. Well, it's nice. It's nice to have a weekend off.
It
It's
really
nice to have,
is.
you know, it's nice to have that time, right?
Yes.
Time off.
It is nice to have.
As you notice that we're standing
Time
inside
off.
this giant clock.
Very
Very.
colorful.
You like this clock?
I like it.
You know,
It's very whimsical.
yeah, I mean, there's a
One of my new
small
favorite words.
family-owned business that the woman who owns is retiring, and so she had a sale, and so we went there, and I walked in, I saw this clock, and I said, you know, that's the type of thing we would be nice to have in the office, you know, sort of whimsical, lighthearted, right? We do a lot of new artwork in the
We
office.
do.
Art.com, baby.
I
Yeah, I told you,
particularly like
so
the owl.
you like the owl. Yeah, the owl is a divisive painting. I think. I mean, sort of painting, you love the owl or you hate the owl. You can come to our clinic and we'll show you the owl. So
That's right.
That's right. So I think that's how we talk about time. So you know, Margaret, we were interacting with a patient who'd asked us about a timeline about, you know, coming in and doing embryo adoption. And I thought I had been very clear when talking, you know, with this patient, and we sort of went through the timeline, and somehow it didn't get across right. And so when we talk about timeline, it's very important, right? Patients have
Very
different expectations, right? And so, for example, in this particular situation, you know, she was saying, well, how long does the process of embryo adoption take? And I said, well, from, you know, your visit here when you get medically cleared to embryo transfer, you know, occasionally, if it's an open situation, 6 months, more like 8 months, oftentimes, and for closed, you know, maybe sort of 3 to 5 months, something like that. But the problem was the time, in her mind, the time was starting from that conversation, I think. I'm talking with her, she said, okay, from that moment, well, I said, well, that didn't include making the appointment to come in as a new patient. And I think that, you know, on the embryo adoption side, the NDC side, you know, usually takes a little bit longer to get in to see us as a new patient. So I think that's part of it.
Then you need the medical clearance.
That's right.
Which is what you get, hopefully, when you come, or you get a list of what you need to do.
Right. We don't, and sometimes that adds time to it, right? We have this week had a patient has a endometrioma cyst in the ovary, needs to be removed prior to moving into embryo adoption. So we do sometimes find things that, as you point out, will change that timeline.
Right.
Well, actually, I mean, it's time, right?
It's
Time.
time.
That's
Does
right.
anybody really know what time it is?
That's right. And time is money. And time's wasted.
And time's wasted.
That's right, right. It's, you know, so, but ready to go back in time. So, so I think that's important. I think that's, you know, we certainly don't want anyone to be frustrated by that. And for patients who want to do IVF, I think there's that timeline, even if it's not embryo adoption, which includes some additional steps, but even IVF, I think patients come in, they say, all right, we're going to do it. We want to do it like tomorrow. But there are steps, right?
There are a lot of steps.
Right. So what are some of the steps that we deal with just our patients who want to do IVF?
Well, infectious lab disease.
Yep.
Infectious disease labs.
Yep. Screening
Still
those, right?
dyslexic.
That's right.
Trial transfer.
Yep.
SIS or HSG
Okay.
to look inside the uterus, make sure everything's clear.
Right.
And then after all the medical stuff is done and good, then a final ART visit
Right.
where you sign consents and have them notarized. And there's just like this whole checklist, and some patients have more things on the checklist than others.
Right.
But those are the biggest things.
Right.
But
Right. So there are those, you know, and there's a timeline, right? There's the checklist, and sometimes patients will be given that checklist, and then they kind of forget those checklists, and they call up, and it's been 2 months, they say, okay, we're ready to start. It's like, well, have you done those things? And then sometimes they haven't done those things, right? And we've also talked, I mean, because Stephanie, who's an excellent CRNA, does our anesthesia, we do have a BMI cutoff too. And sometimes they say, patient, well, you know, you're tipping the scales there at a little bit too much, and we need to bring that BMI down to 38. And you know, sometimes, you know, we'll talk on those free doxy calls. The patient says, well, I know I need IVF, and I'll say, well, what is your BMI? Because I can tell your BMI is not 26. Okay, and so you know, we talk about that, and that's for safety and for also having a good pregnancy.
right.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, as your BMI goes up,
healthy
pregnancy,
pregnancy, healthy mom.
very important, right? Very important. You but somebody always has a cousin who's like 250 pounds heavier than they are. You know, like my cousin Shirley, she weighed 500 pounds, had 3 kids, no problems.
This
Like,
is
well,
East
good for her.
Tennessee.
Oh.
But my thing about that, with any of that, you know,
What's that supposed to mean?
we like a lot of fried foods.
And Mountain Dew.
And
That's
Mountain
true.
Dews.
That is true.
Okay, now I get it.
That's where
Yeah.
I
that
get it.
comes in.
That's, I get it. I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
The stereotype is
DC
true.
where everybody's running and jogging.
Well, you're so stressed all the time in DC. That's why the weight comes off you because they're too stressed.
That place, never mind. No wonder they're stressed. I wouldn't live there for anything. But anyway, what I was getting at is there's a lot of stories of the same situation that somebody else had babies and didn't have any problems. But if you could do that, you wouldn't be here as patients. So even though it worked for somebody else, there's something wrong. And the more things you can do that improves your chances.
That's right. That's right. No, you're right, and that is for sure true. And I think that's, and I think that the patients, I think understand that on some level, but it's just frustrating, right?
It is frustrating.
There's not, nobody wants to kind of suddenly realize that, gee, it's not happening, right? I think like, well, just one more month will certainly happen or whatever.
And especially if their cousin
Right,
so and
I
so.
know.
But
And it's always some cousin or sister. It's like, well, we got pregnant on a third. We weren't even trying. I
we
don't
have a
even
lot of
remember.
cousins.
Yeah, I don't remember even having like sex at all that month. I don't know how I got pregnant.
I know.
It's like exactly. So everyone knows there's
We
some
call
relatives
them
like that.
verbal myrtles, but
That's right. Anyway, I think that for certain we do want patients to have that once they come in. You know, we want things to move quickly for them. You know, and if they're not doing IVF, obviously it's quicker to jump in and do some IUI cycles if they want to. I mean, so I mean, we try to keep that
we do.
that bar, you know, that
You
hurdle
especially.
low. We want to get me especially. I feel like that's a negative thing somehow. The way you said that. So I think we do want them to have that. Now, the other thing is that in terms of, I mean, I need a break this afternoon. I mean, I was pretty busy this week, and I don't want patients to be waiting 5 months for a new patient appointment. I think that's rough, but that makes it hard for me because, of course, we're seeing more patients. But also, I think that the reason to do the doxy calls, those free ones, it's just sometimes it's just not going to be the right fit. You know, a couple says, we're going to use PGT or we're going to use donor egg. I said, well, those aren't things that we offer here. So really, rather than wait 2 months for an appointment and be told it's not something we don't do, I mean, I don't want them to do that. I understand that. And that's true in terms of whether you're using donor egg or donor sperm gestational carrier or genetic testing, or unmarried couples say, listen, help you figure out maybe why you're not getting pregnant, but once it goes to treatment, we're asking you to walk down the aisle. And I tell them, don't do it for Dr. Gordon's sake, please. Okay, I have enough guilt in my life and problems in my life to not need your decision to get married being my fault. So nobody should get married just so you can be Dr. Gordon's patient.
That's true.
Don't you think?
Okay.
Exactly, right?
Excellent advice.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. That's I get enough guilt overall. I need extra guilt, right?
Exactly.
Right. So I think that's right. So time's a wasting. It's lunchtime. It's almost time for Facebook Friday to be over.
Yeah.
So one more time. What do you want to say to
time
the
is it?
people out there? Does anybody know what time it is?
Does anybody really know?
Or does anybody really care? That's right.
Does anybody really
That's right.
care?
That's right. See, you could have
Oh,
been backup
that's
singer for
right.
Chicago. Well, anyway, that's it's about time for Facebook Friday to end. Mark, do you have anything to add?
Is Sherry here?
No,
I
she's
just-
gone.
Oh, darn her.
But you
I was
can-
hoping to
you can
get
show
her.
the
No, she's
picture
gone.
of Rome, though.
That's
if you
right.
want to.
She's Rome. Roma.
And her
Yes.
new bulletin
Roma.
board.
Yes, her beautiful new
That's
bulletin
right.
board. Okay,
She
okay.
spends a lot of time in this.
That's right.
In her office.
Well, I was hoping to get her on there,
Look at the
but
clock.
She
I put
clock
that-
watches
That's
now.
right. That's right. Tick, 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 tick.
we'll get her
You
sometime.
come in like just kind of like push it back, like we'll
Hey,
walk by
Hannah.
every minute, so it's like
Oh.
so it's going in. That'd be good. All right. Well, anyway, it's time to say goodbye, and we'll see you all next time on Facebook Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy
Have a
Friday.
weekend.
Have a good weekend.